David Groff is an independent book editor, a founder of the Publishing Triangle, and the author most recently of the poetry collection, Live in Suspense. Please give it up for David Groff.
What a wonderful evening. In 2002, on this stage, Michael Denneny received the first leadership award awarded by the Publishing Triangle. He was an inevitable choice, and not only because he was one of the co-founders of this organization in 1988. He was then, and he is now, a vital, pivotal, indispensable engenderer of the 2022 books we have celebrated here tonight, along with the entire library of 5 decades of queer writing, especially gay men's writing, but writing by people of all gender identities. His dedication, savvy, sensibility, and vision inform and define how our books get published, find readers, and define our culture. Michael Denneny died on April 12th of this year. I am so glad he got to hold in his hands his own new book on Christopher Street, Life, Sex, and Death After Stonewall. Life, Sex, and Death After Stonewall. Michael Denneny knew a lot about those things. As a person, an intellect, and a participant in the gay life of New York, he knew a lot about the life we have been making for ourselves. He helped to bring it to articulation, the life we led then and lead today. And certainly he knew about sex and love, writing a book of interviews with gay male lovers, living the life of an urban post-Stonewall gay white man. He even would go to the baths on his lunch hour, which I, as a young editor, took careful note of as a workday opportunity. Death he also knew about. Michael Denneny came of age in New York in the 1970s and lived to endure, survive, and chronicle the traumatic, destructive, scourging era of AIDS. And like so many gay men and lesbians in New York, he cared deeply for people with AIDS he loved and lost. I can see right now the face of his friend Jay, whom he worked out with alongside me and so many others at the Chelsea Gym. His lost authors are their own pantheon. And surely he knew about Stonewall, naming his series of LGBTQ books Stonewall in Editions, and his career and sensibility essentially spanned the entire 50 years plus since the time when queer and trans people just 5 blocks away from where we are tonight took their anger onto the streets and turned it into an enduring, culture-making activism, as we all took on the continuing, evolving work of defining what it means to be lesbian, gay, bi, trans, or queer, doing essential transformative work that makes us all, as Felice Pacano put it, people in history. Michael was a founding editor of the magazine Christopher Street. It has been said that Christopher Street was the New Yorker magazine for queer people, but I prefer actually to think of the New Yorker as a Christopher Street for straight people. The writers that Michael brought to light remain the luminaries of the post-Stonewall literary movement. During his long tenure at St. Martin's Press, Michael published such books as For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough by Ntozake Shange and Judith Thurman's biography of Isaac Dennison, as well as such directly LGBTQ titles as novels by Christopher Davis, Larry Duplachon, Edmund White, John Fox, Ethan Morden, Douglas Sadownik, and many more, as well as such powerful works of nonfiction as Reports from the Holocaust, The Story of an AIDS Activist by Larry Kramer, The Soul Beneath the Skin, The Unseen Hearts and Habits of Gay Men by David Nimmons, poetry collections by Paul Manette, Lesbianism Made Easy by Helen Eisenbach, and the provocative, era-defining Frontline Chronicle and the Band Played On, Politics, People, and AIDS, and the AIDS Epidemic by Randy Schultz. But Michael's impact extended beyond the books that he edited with such finesse, savvy, intelligence, and care. Through his relentless efforts at St. Martin's, he created a new publishing model that showed how books targeted to queer readers, especially gay men, could find enthusiastic and substantial readerships and be published profitably. Before him, nobody believed that queer books could make money. Michael proved they could. Let me say it now, queer books make money. Queer books have readers. Michael was at a publishing house that made its money through publishing myriad books to precise readerships. From murder mysteries to self-help, and queer books thrived in that environment. But this work was not easy. Michael was lucky to get a job and to keep a job as an out gay man at a time when myriad gay editors may have been out but weren't out and about and didn't publish anything in any shade of lavender. It remained difficult, especially with the corporatization of mainstream publishing that has constricted what LGBTQ editors and authors could do because the numbers seemed not big enough and the risks too high, especially if you were not a gay white man. Michael took risks. He worked the system. It was an exhausting, often exhausting effort that he excelled at. In our current era, when the issue of sustainability still looms large for all writers, especially our writers, and an age of consolidations and winner-take-all publishing, Michael's strategies for publishing effectively and profitably are ones we should all look at and adapt as we seek a substantial, large readership for our books and a sustainable publishing culture. When I came into publishing, Michael was already a major figure, a formidable but always genial and engaging one. He was my model, and to some degree my competitor, when I was an editor at Crown and he was at St. Martin's. As LGBT people in publishing and beyond came together in the late 80s to advocate for their books and find community and to found this organization, we would meet in the boardroom of St. Martin's Press in the narrow Flatiron blade at the north end of the Flatiron building as we began advocating for our books and our own place in the business and establishing these very awards. Michael was essential to that process. Michael and I shared authors, including Paul Manette, and shared notes and notions about the publishing strategies, including how to seduce those straight folks and some gay men who kept their arms folded and their faces flat in marketing meetings when we pitched our books. We even shared sales figures. And later, I got the precious chance to work with Michael as my editor when I co-wrote an adoption memoir he published called An American Family by John and Michael Galluccio. Later, when we both were independent editors, Michael became a supportive colleague. It was wonderful to lunch with him at his book-lined apartment on West 83rd Street and to see him sitting right down there, where all of you are, at these very awards. He was an amazing man, generous, loquacious, wearing his considerable intellect lightly, engaged with change, uttering wise and sometimes sardonic sayings in his hearty Rhode Island accent, his face spreading into a wide smile, and smoking those incessant Carltons. Sturdy, enduring, a survivor, an executor, a chronicler, Michael seemed like he would be with us forever, a mountain, a harbor, a lighthouse. But Michael's impact transcends the specifics of the books he edited, published, and wrote. In the words of writer Jonathan Sillam, through his many projects, he helped to make our lives legible to others, and perhaps more importantly, to ourselves. The great mission of LGBT society and culture over the past 55 years has been to bring our identity and community to articulation, to create the words, the legibility, the larger culturation without which we would not know ourselves. Michael helped give us those words that shape ourselves and our societies. Without our queer and trans words, which still come to us so primarily through the written page, do we even know who we are or who we might continue to become? To make those words and to engender those resonant words in others is what unites us all in this room tonight. It is the work of culture. It is the work of history. Even as we grieve Michael, we can celebrate that the culminating book of his career on Christopher Street was just published by Chicago Review Press. So now, on behalf of Michael, ever the advocate and marketer, the man who would grinningly thrust a new book in your hands, I will ask you what I know he would ask you all if he were here. Buy the book. Buy his book. Buy other books. Our words, Michael's words, give us meaning and breath. If we buy the books, if we make others buy them, and if we all read them together, then we can foster the sustainable culture that Michael helped us to build. Thank you, Michael, for all you've given us, all you've helped to make happen, and thank you all.